settings in our laptop. I got it next.
Well, we fixed it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Can everybody hear me now?
I guess we're good.
Hear me now?
Thank you.
Yes. Make your head, yes. Can you hear me now? Hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, they should.
All right, we're talking. Okay. So with that being said, you want to do probably a Form 34 that says who's gonna pay for all this stuff? And if you're a listing agent and you first list the property, that's when you need to start talking about what is the process? Get this title eliminated, whether it's physically on the property, attaching it and removing the tongue and skirting it and all that, or whether it's paperwork. So the form says it's the seller's responsibility, but what if the seller doesn't know what that means? And then escrow's going, okay, I see that it's the seller's responsibility, so I got that part figured out. I'm not gonna call it a buyer, but I need to know what else you want me to do. Do you want me to go spend your money? Do you have money? Are we paying for it at closing? Who's paying for it up front? Because a lot of times these things that Vanessa will get into have to be dealt with. So it's really just about, remember, how are we gonna do it? Who's gonna do it? And more importantly, who's gonna pay for it? And so you might use this form plus the Form 34.
Mhm.
It's that simple. Clear as mud? Clear as mud.
All right.
The video did say that that form is to be used exclusively with the vacant land sales agreement.
And we'll get into that. Yeah,
That's interesting.
yes.
That's interesting.
Because their rule number, well, 192, or what do they call those?
Because there's no house when you buy it, when you write it up. That makes sense.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
If there's no legal bulletin 195 was dated 2012, so it's outdated. They need to update that.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I have a client. I saw a bunch of realtors tried to help her. She tried to move back to Madison where she grew up. This is years ago. She works at the casino now. And all the brokers told her she couldn't buy this single wide. Couldn't buy the single wide, no financing for single wides. And she came to me and she goes, Russ, I heard you're the problem solver. I said, well, what's the problem? She told me, I don't see a single wide. You? I see a car. She went, what? I said, you don't need to worry about financing the single wide because I don't see it. I made sure the title wasn't eliminated. You can invert that.
Mhm.
So you can turn it from personal property to real property. You can turn it from real property to personal property. So I turned it to personal property and then I financed it as a lot. The home was still there. And the lender didn't care. So she was like, he's a miracle worker, and I was able to move back to my hometown. All because I understood the difference between a lot loan and a house loan. It works both ways.
All right,
There you go.
excellent, thank you. Okay, Vanessa.
So my. Great.
All right, so I'm going to put up your document that you sent me.
Were you just saying that if it's a manufactured home that doesn't have the title eliminated and it's on land and for sale, you're supposed to put a vacant land purchase and sale and then put description that they need to have the title eliminated?
And if it says there's a form for that video that we watched that says that this form is to be used exclusively with the vacant land purchase and sale agreement. So
With the manufactured home?
if it's a manufactured home that's title eliminated, use the regular Form 21 residential purchase and sale, because it's real property. It's now not a mobile home.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's still a mobile home and it hasn't been eliminated, you have to write with the vacant land purchase and sale agreement and use this addendum, is what they're saying.
Oh, okay, cool.
Okay, but the problem with that addendum is like Russ said, it's not specific enough.
Yeah.
Escrow. So what he said was use a Form 34 to define the terms of how that's gonna be eliminated.
And who's paying for
And
it?
who's paying for it, because what time of year you close depends on how much money that seller needs to come up with. The taxes, you have to pay the whole year. So obviously, if you're closing after second half taxes are paid in October, there's nothing more due. So taxes are paid in full. That's a prime time to do this title elimination without costing your seller money out of the pocket. If you have to do this elimination ahead of time, ahead of closing, which is what that addendum said, is speaking to the seller doing that, and then it gives the number of days that you can put in, that will be done so many days prior to closing. I would argue that you probably want to use 0 days. Make sure that it's done at closing, because it's not always gonna be able to be done before closing. It's not always. What do you think?
Mhm.
You would want to make sure and protect your seller by saying, giving them the most amount of time possible before closing to get that done. Because here's certain things that happen. This manufactured home, this document is a multi-use document that has to be filed. This has to be recorded in order for the title company to pick it up and recognize it as real property as well as the county. You can be removing from real property, you can be transferring location, or you could be title elimination. So you're gonna be doing the title elimination box, you need to have all of the information for the mobile home. So you should have, if at the very least, a copy of the original mobile home title, if not that, you really should have the original. A lot of escrow companies are not gonna want the copy, they're gonna want the original. So you're going to insert all of the information about the actual land on here, and you can do this ahead of time. When they're asking for it to be done ahead of time, you can do this, but what you have to be aware of is that when you get to this building permit office certification area, you have the title company attach legal and sign off. That's easy. You can just take it to them as a listing agent. You can just go in and say, the board of the preliminary title here, I see you're gonna, we're gonna have to eliminate title. Probably the buyer's gonna probably have to have title eliminated with the loan that they're getting, as you heard Sharon say. They require the elimination to be done. However, I do know of a couple of companies that actually will do loans on land with mobile that is not eliminated. So, and that's good to know. If anybody wants to know who they are, I can let you know, but, if you're going to do this ahead of time, what you can do ahead of time, and I would recommend, is getting the building permit office to sign off on it. Because if they're gonna call for work, LNI, it's an LNI inspection, so if they haven't done railings if they haven't done the work that's in compliance with LNI, they're gonna ask for it to be done before they'll even do the elimination or sign off on it. So that to me is like a big pitfall for the process going smoothly, is if maybe the work hadn't been fixed properly. If the mobile's not fixed properly and they haven't done railings and decks and stairs that are compliant, they're going to ask for them to be done before they'll sign off on this. And you have to have that signed off on in order to do the elimination. So just beware, if it looks like there might be something wrong with it, you may want to find out.
Yeah.
Up front by getting this to the building department early.
When you have like a title elimination, how long is closing usually?
Well, that's a good question. It's gonna depend on if there's a loan on the property, existing loan on the property, if there's any work to be done on the property itself. I mean, I guess you could argue that it could kill the deal if they needed $10,000 worth of work to be done.
Yeah.
So, finding out as soon as possible is probably good.
Yeah.
I would say that we have closed them quickly, within 30 to 45 days.
Okay.
When all of the weather is good, you know, everything's perfect, and that's in a perfect situation. It's not that hard. You want to make sure you contact escrow as soon as you've got the mutual in escrow. And tell them that this is a title elimination transaction and you do need to proceed immediately, and the title company should help you with this form. Because they're gonna record it in the end. They will know who at the building department needs to sign off. They will facilitate getting signed off. When I was in escrow, I would deliver it to Douglas County or Chelan County to the building department and have them leave it there and have them sign it, and then I go pick it up. Do the inspection, so there are costs involved. Like I said, with the taxes that are gonna be owed, it's $75 to the building department for that initial inspection. And then there's an additional fee if they have to re-inspect any work being done. So there are costs involved in doing this elimination form. If you're closing and you're trying to do your elimination like in January or February of the year, you still have to pay the whole year's taxes.
Wow.
So before you can do this, so that means the seller has to come out of pocket for first and second half taxes in one lump sum. And it has to be collected prior to closing, if they're gonna say it has to be done prior to closing. That's why I'm saying on that form. You may want to clarify that should be done simultaneously at closing. That elimination form, so that your seller can use his proceeds to pay for that.
Yeah, okay. Makes sense.
Right.
So the title will be officially eliminated the day of closing, but. you're
No,
saying-
it needs to be done before.
Okay,
That's where I think the Form 34 comes in
Mhm.
about saying when.
where Russ
When-
was saying, let's
Yes.
get this all fleshed
Get it
out.
all fleshed out on the Form 34 and accompany it with this form. Yeah, because I think if you scroll down here, Marcia, on this form here,
Mhm.
no, the
Oh, on the
addend-
form,
mobile home addendum.
yeah,
If you look on there, it's going to, if you scroll down here. Title and provide notice to buyer thereof that the elimination is done not less than how many days before closing? Well, if you put 0 in there, does that mean, and I'm asking this, if you put 0 in there, does that mean you can do it at closing? I mean, I would think you would have to still spell it out on the Form 34, that the title and elimination would take place simultaneously with the closing.
Yeah. I know that you. Is there an other box at the bottom of this page? No, okay.
No, it's a really weird kind of short little form.
Yeah, usually there's like a box that says other and you can kind of like type in something.
so that's why Russ is saying that a Form 34,
Right.
who pays for it? Yeah,
Right, and who pays for it? Because as we know, depending on what time of year it is, it could be a chunk of money.
Yeah, so that paragraph already talks about the seller's expense paying for the title or elimination.
that's correct.
So then the 34 is just very clearly clarifying that the
Right.
buyers do know the expense from the title
If
elimination.
you're gonna eliminate this ahead of time, if you wanna record this elimination prior to the actual closing and recording of your transaction, the seller's gonna have to cough up that money out of his pocket.
Mhm.
He can't use his proceeds from his sale because the sale hasn't happened until closing.
Okay.
So that's where it becomes a problem sometimes. That I've noticed in escrow where it becomes a problem is the seller's like, I don't have that money. I don't have the money to write you a check for the full year's taxes and billing department. Inspection. And then it goes back to the agent and becomes the agent's problem, right? And so now you've said, okay, we'll do this prior to closing, but now they don't have the money to do it. So who pays for it? I've seen agents pay for it and get reimbursed at closing. How many agents really want to do that? What if the deal doesn't go through?
Yeah.
So. Most of the eliminations I've done have been simultaneously with closing or even after closing. The problem arises if you have a new loan, a new lender, as Sharon had mentioned, they require that the elimination is done to fund the loan. Now, there is a little wiggle room on that because they may consider the simultaneous closing of the recording of the elimination in their deed of trust at the same time of closing. They may consider that as being done prior, as this will record first. But you have to have that conversation with the lender to make sure that they'll accept that. Some of them are like, no, I want a copy of this document completed and recorded before I'll even fund the loan or consider funding the loan. The underwriter wants this form recorded. Then what do you do? Yeah. Then you're delayed. But the actual completion of the form is fairly easy, and if you wanted to, and now here's one of the pitfalls that would happen if you went ahead and said, okay, well, I got this listing, let's go ahead and do the elimination so that we have real property and then we'll list it as real property. Well, what if it's kind of a crappy mobile, but it's a great lot? And what if people now are looking at it wanting to buy the lot and build on it? Well, you don't want to do an elimination in that case because that's hard to unwind. That's a lot of paperwork to unwind that elimination.
So people can eliminate.
So you could
eliminate.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, you can. It's crazy.
Just don't ask
How
me
many
to spell
names?
it.
This name is the best name you could have for anything and all things with mobile homes. And her
So-
name's Melena Kessman.
Oh, say the beginning part again.
The person, the number one person, if you have any questions about mobile home transfers or mobile homes in general,
Mm-hmm.
is Melena Kessman at Cheyenne County. She works in the assessor's office, but it's also the DOL office. So you can theoretically have a Douglas County property and she can do the actual mobile home work on it. It's this DOL.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, so you don't have to deal with Douglas.
So,
Douglas is a little harder to deal with, I find, on a lot of things, so.
so in our notes that I will send out, we'll include her contact information. So if you send that to me,
I'll send the information.
yeah, to
She
me.
is, yeah, she is a miracle worker. I've had all sorts of dead people on mobile homes that have titles. And she has helped me get those closed, so she knows it all. But,
Okay.
yeah, so anyway, that form, I think the two most important parts of the building permit part and the being signed off by the title company. If you've had the title company sign off and you've got them filled out, you can have that signed off. The other part is if you've got a lender on the mobile home, your seller's got a lender on the mobile home, the legal owner is actually the bank. So where it says legal owner sign, you have to have the actual payoff lender
Oh, gosh.
sign.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes, because they're the
Mhm.
legal owner. You can't transfer or eliminate the title or transfer. it
Until
without the
that
legal
loan
owner's
is paid.
consent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, so it's kind of, I mean, obviously I'll be available to you to help you with if you've had any
Yeah, that
issues
just
with
gives me
mobile
a
homes.
headache. Wait, okay, so did that? I thought you couldn't get a loan on it though. Unless it. I'm sorry.
There's lenders out there that will loan on a mobile and land. There's lenders out there. I know that what Sharon said, but she's right from the extent that most of the lenders won't. But there are a few that will.
Like 21st mortgage.
Yeah, I believe that's one of them. And then, CU Factory Credit up in Federal Way.
Triad too.
Mhm.
I think
And
they're-
Triad's a big one. Triad's a big one. They actually will facilitate a lot of the paperwork for you if you work with Triad. I know that. But, Yeah.
So go over, you and I went over this. What is the process? Once you fill out that paper, the first step is the title company.
well, you have to fill out the actual first part here.
Well, I understand that, but I mean, but
But yes, the first step is to get the title company certification. So if you go to preliminary title and they have a title report, you just go in there and say, can you fill out this portion for me for this part of my title elimination? Since you're doing the report on it, you've got the legal, we'll attach the legal, there's a place here to attach it or type it in. They'll sign off that that's a true, correct legal for the land. Okay. And then you can go to the building department and order that inspection, which is something I would recommend doing sooner than later. Yeah. Depending, because you don't know what's gonna show up. Or,
Yeah.
yeah, so those are the two most important, I think,
Mhm.
places to get the signatures on. And then if you have a lender, of course, you need to have them sign off as legal owner. That theoretically could take you the longest amount of time.
Yeah.
If there's an existing loan on the property. This is doing the elimination ahead of closing. So that's recorded and documented ahead of closing.
And if you do it at closing though, then
You don't need the legal owner's signature, it should be the bank because you're paying them off.
so that could be another huge benefit to just doing it all at closing
Mhm.
along with proceeds.
Because if you do it at closing, you're gonna have the buyer on here, the buyer's name on here instead of the seller's name.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so that's basically the pitfalls that could happen with that. And then I think the other one is knowing the intention of what the use of the property is, because if they're not going to be using the mobile at all,
Yeah.
and they're gonna maybe live in it for a year or two, and then they're gonna be living in their new house, it would save them a lot of trouble not to have an eliminated mobile home title. You know, it would be much better for them to just have a regular physical title for that mobile.
Cause then they can sell it off easier later.
Right, yes, yeah, because then they can get rid of it off the property easier. Because regardless of what you do with that mobile, you have to do department licensing documents. If you're going to dispose of it, you have to do the department licensing documents.
Okay.
Yeah, so in all cases, you have to do department licensing documents.
Yeah, so if it kind of looks like a rundown little mobile unit, you could probably just leave it. And not do all that.
Yeah, hopefully the buyer can
Mhm.
buy it with, in that manner.
And
Yeah,
that's when,
so-
that's when we say personal property
Yeah,
That's
is
what
left
it's
at,
called.
yes,
Yeah.
that at the seller's convenience and is of no monetary value. That whole thing that we
It still
do.
has to be title transferred. But then it doesn't become part of the loan, as Russ said, you can get like a big plan loan on that.
yeah.
So if I am selling property that has a manufactured home on it with, that is not eliminated, the title isn't eliminated, then we would do our transaction for the land. And then just like I was buying a car, we would fill out the registration form and go down and transfer the title at that time.
Okay, so here's a question, how would you know if it's mobile eliminated or not? What is your first indication that it's eliminated or not?
Well, your title report from your.
Correct. You're gonna have a paragraph in there
Yeah.
stating that they have disclosed a mobile home
Preliminary.
being along on the title report. There'll be a whole paragraph there about that. Now, that's not to say that sometimes they miss, sometimes they do miss them if they're not eliminated.
Yeah.
So, but you can always go to the county records and check. Where you can drop down that form and, name of the owner and see if they've ever done one.
Yeah.
You know, so. Yeah,
When in doubt, check it out.
yeah, is that
Yeah.
about all you need?
Perfect. Thank you very much, Vanessa.
Well, if I ever have one, I'm going to Vanessa Marsha.
Exactly. And that's what that's right next to me.
So one of the things that I wanted to talk about, it was so confusing. Their legal bulletin 192, the date on that is 2012.
Yeah.
And when they refer you back to it, they haven't updated that. And so Vanessa and I she's dealing with the Northwest MLS. The attorney that's going to be coming over here in October to do training, she's in touch with her. And so we're going to get clarification, because this particular form right now in Northwest MLS, in the most recent, do you remember Annie there's a form for that? And she did one specifically on 22 MH. And there are 3 different scenarios. Actually, there are 4. The form that we see the most is Form 23, where you're buying a manufactured home on leased land. So that title has not been eliminated because it can't attach to the land because it's owned by somebody else. So in Form 23, it has everything in there. The whole contingency is, do the buyers, now you might have financing or you might have inspection or any of those, but the whole contract is contingent on that park accepting those people as one of their tenants.
Yeah.
And the reason that we can sell a manufactured home that has the title and it's not eliminated is there are 2 ways that we can do transactions in real property. And one of them is fee simple.
Okay.
The other is leasehold. And because we're dealing with the lease of the land, that's a leasehold. That gives us the authority to be able to include a manufactured home sale on that. Now, so if you're Form 23, I just talked about, the title is not eliminated and the whole thing is the approval of the park on the lease of the new buyer of that manufactured home. If it is sitting on land and you have a manufactured home there and it has not been eliminated, then it goes on a Form 25. And that's the vacant land. And then this is the only time right now that I know of that we use the 22 MH.
So they go together.
It has to go together because there's no terms on this one.
So never should we see
22 MH in a contract without a 25.
That's right. The question is, we should never see 22 MH in a 21, a 23 or 28. Well, it wouldn't be one, that's a condo. So the only time this right now is being used is with a vacant land. And one of the benefits of that Vanessa talked about is it may be a fabulous lot. So the people are going to live in the manufactured home and while their home is being built. And then scenario number 4, then they want to sell it.
Yeah.
Can we sell their personal manufactured home?
It's personal property.
If it's not a leasehold,
That's right. It has to be attached to land.
it's like selling a car, we can't sell it.
That's right. We do not have the license to do that. And that's something that happens outside of our contracts.
Yeah, just put that on.
That's
Maybe
right.
just when you just tell your buyer that bought the lot and the old mobile to trot on up to see Milena Kessman, and she'll help them
figure
with
it
that.
out.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess when you list the mobile with it not being eliminated on vacant land, can someone get financing for the vacant land?
Yes, there's vacant land financing.
But will they do it even with the mobile home on it?
I don't think they care,
Okay, yeah.
but they're
If it-
just,
If it's
As
not
long as it
eliminated, they don't
appraises.
care.
it's like
Okay.
parking your car.
Okay,
They don't care.
okay.
Or an RV. Yeah.
They deal with this all the time if you think about it. I mean,
Yeah.
they've seen this a lot.
As
Mhm.
much as just around the Glacial Land, how many
Yeah.
pieces of land there are with something sitting there that really is not a permanent home.
So you remember on a 23, 4 or 5 of the lines have all this right in here. It has all the manufacturer of the year, the model number, the serial number, blah, blah, whatever. On a 23, that's complete. You do not need a 22 MH. Okay,
The best favor you can do yourself in escrow on a transaction with a title mobile is to make sure you know that seller has the original title or a copy of it if the lender is legal owner. Because the lender will hold that original title. That's the process. The escrow will obtain that.
so if what Vanessa's saying in the background is that if you're doing a listing and the manufactured home the title has not been eliminated, then the first thing is you need to make sure that there's no loan on it. And remember, in that documentation, they're the owners of that. It's not the people making the payments. And so we need to be really clear on that. And did I restate everything that you said, Vanessa? I think I
Yeah, I
did.
think so. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Except for that, you want to make sure you got your hot little hands on that.
Oh,
mobile title.
The mobile home title. And what Vanessa told me earlier is it really needs to be an original and not a copy. So if you've paid it off, your seller, if they don't have the original, then it's like losing a title to your car. There's a process. You have to go through and you have to reapply and get it.
There is ways around it. There's a ways where lost title affidavit is a way to do that. Gotta have everybody alive that was on that mobile home title original. There's dead people on that, it's a problem.
Yeah.
So there's a
Okay.
lot of problems.
So you can get around it, but everybody that's on that title, if there's anybody that's dead, hook up with your favorite seance person. It doesn't matter if you're trying to change the title.
Yeah, if they're alive and can sign, then they're great.
It's the same thing with the car, by the way. If there's a dead person on a car, you've gotta go through that whole thing as well.
Right.
It's not fun. You wanna
So,
know all this stuff ahead of time.
yes.
So that the escrow has time to clear all that.
So the listing broker needs to find out, one, has the title been eliminated? And when you order a preliminary title and you ask them and they say, yes, it's been eliminated. I don't get a yearly, like your tabs. They don't get that.
Yeah.
Then once you do that, then you check your title report and make sure that it doesn't come up that there's a manufactured home on it.
And usually the title company won't put personal property numbers on there. That's on them, the escrow officer to search out if they're smart, they will.
Mhm.
To try to find out if there is a personal property number. There are several occasions where I've noticed a non-eliminated mobile home, meaning a titled mobile home on land being assessed as real property. And I don't know how that happens, but it happens.
The county,
In the county.
the county goes out and doesn't, is not doing their job. Okay. So to actually make it and fill it out, then you do need to know, just like when you're doing a land with a manufactured home that the title has been eliminated, you need to get that information. Now, one of the things on this is with your buyer, you need to realize that this says right here, seller shall, at seller's expense, make a good faith effort to eliminate title and provide notice to buyer thereof no less than, and it's 5 days before closing. I think I would want to know a lot more than just 5 days. If the seller fails to timely eliminate title, and you heard the process, and if you have a 30-day close, you need to really be on top of this immediately. So if the seller fails to timely eliminate title and give notice thereof, then this agreement shall terminate and the earnest money shall be refunded to the buyer. So what happens if the seller is really trying and they don't have the original copy and it's taking longer and they got to go through this process over here to get that before they can do this? What happens if the buyer wants to keep it, wants it to go through? Then you need to be really careful and make sure that you get both buyer and seller agree to extend the closing date to facilitate the elimination of the title. And so you'll want to be really careful about that, because not only the cost, there's the cost, and then there's the just the time for the process. Okay, so you're a listing broker and you've got this nice little piece of property. It has a really nice, about 1,400 square foot manufactured home on it. It's 3-bedroom, 2-bath, pretty typical. And you find out that the title has not been eliminated. If the majority of people in the neighborhood are living there and they have manufactured homes, then you want to talk to the seller about, do you want to go through the process or not? If the title has not been eliminated, at a minimum, you really need to talk about that in the broker remarks and say, for the real property, that the manufactured home has not had the title eliminated. Additional fees and time may be required to do that before closing. Something that kind of lets them know what's going on. Maybe there's a woman like that, like you were talking about, Vanessa, or a person that just doesn't have the money.
Mm-hmm.
So they pay they fill out the paperwork, they have the original certificate, they pay the $75, and then it's like an appraiser that comes out. They will have a work order before they have to have it approved that they can do that. So there may be steps or stairways. It may not be tied down properly. They might need railings. Whatever that is, and the cost of that, if you can imagine, the very next thing, once you get this work order, you need to find a contract that's going to give you an idea of what it is, so that you can sell it, but the seller is not going to have to pay for it. Let's say it's $8,500. And the seller can't pay for it before closing. Well, that would be something that out of their net proceeds that you could negotiate to have the seller pay and set it aside for the actual work to be done. So there are a lot of things that you need to talk about with your seller if they have a manufactured home. One, is the title eliminated? Two, if not, do we want to do it before we sell this? Do we want to get in the process of it?
I've seen it once, one time where the elimination was done when it got to mutual. When they signed the documents for the buyer, it had been completed.
Oh, okay.
One time in my whole career. I saw
So
that.
Vanessa said one time in her whole career, has she ever seen where mutual was done and then they completed the title? The rest of the time it all had to be done. And you're at the mercy of, well, and the money for taxes. I mean, that's anyways, it can really get out of hand very quickly.
Like the taxes for the land?
They have to pay the personal property and the land taxes. Everything they be assessed. Like I said, sometimes they don't have a personal property number. For some reason, they lumped it into the real property number. It's kind of like a big puzzle for escrow because they have to figure this all out. Is there not some weird wonky personal property number out there that they're not seeing? Sometimes it doesn't exist. But they have to pay everything in full for the year. Yeah.
So it's like when you do a boundary line adjustment or something like that, before you can file, all the taxes have to be paid. They just don't want to mess with it. Who do I pay and who pays what? And it's all done. Yeah, it's all done for the entire year. And then when they go back out to re-inspect it, then there is another $75 fee with the county that works directly with DOL, right? So did I say that right?
Yeah, well, they don't really work with DOL, but they will charge a reinspection fee, and I'm
Yeah.
not sure if it's 75 or 125. It could be more. I don't know why I'm thinking that the reinspection sometimes is a little bit more, but I haven't actually, knocked on wood, luckily, just to let everybody know, you don't see, a lot of times they just sign off on it. This isn't been a kind of a rare circumstance that you'll see this big work order, but I think you'll know by looking at the property. Things don't look right, they probably aren't right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if they're wonky, I like that word. Okay. So once again, the only time that you will use this document, this Form 22 MH is with a vacant land. Okay? Your lease, Form 23, that purchase and sale agreement has all that information and all the conditions in it. So Form 25, 22 MH, but not with a 21. I've seen that and it's just been the last few months. It just seems like all of a sudden I'm seeing these. It's like somebody did a search on Northwest MLS Express forms, manufactured homes, and then all these things. Oh, I must need that. And
it's logical that it's real property. It's assessed as real property. You don't need any addendum.
that's right.
It's already real property, like the house, the stick house.
So that's a question.
Yes.
I understand it, it makes sense, but I don't know the whole backstory of any of the transaction like Vanessa does, and you guys do. So say you had say you take the vacant land because it has a manufactured home on there, and it's gonna have a title eliminated before closing. But then that means that you're actually buying a residential property right before closing, but you have a vacant land purchase and sale, and now the manufactured home is actually residential property, so that then you don't have to switch the purchase and sale agreement.
It's all done at closing.
Okay, that's just what my brain is like, well, then by the end of it all, it would be the residential. Yeah, it'd be the residential property,
Mhm.
so I guess that. would
If
be
they
my-
turned around after they had closing, title was eliminated. This is real estate, real property.
Yeah.
and you decided to sell it, then it would be a Form 21.
Anything Simmons specifically says on when she's describing this, that the next sale would be a 21,
But not this.
not this.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I remember I had a vacant land deal, you know, this was last year, but it was, they put it on the MLS as residential because there used to be a structure. So it had a foundation, had like a few of the previous, sticks up, but really it wasn't livable at all. And I was debating between running a vacant land purchase and sale or residential, because technically they put on them once it's residential, but it doesn't really have structure anymore.
Technically, if there's a manufactured home there, then we're supposed, and the title has not been eliminated, we're supposed to go and, on the side when you're searching, it says residential condominiums, vacant land, manufactured homes. We are supposed, that's what a Form 25 and 22 MH does when you buy it. And it should be listed that way.
But I think she's saying where you have an actual foundation that's still left on the land.
And it
That
had,
doesn't-
yeah,
because
it
it has
had-
like that-
well, that was where my brain went, was just because last year, it had a few studs left, like, it had barely basically like half the roof, it was like that. But, and I just didn't know, I guess I was contemplating it because tax benefits, like, is there a tax difference when you're purchasing it? Like, does the county see that you purchased it as vacant land or residential and achieve the tax purposes? I didn't know.
Well, they assess it differently.
Yeah,
They assess
and
it differently,
and
but they cannot
remember-
recognize that foundation and nothing there as being anything.
residential
It's not
means
like
that
that.
there's a certificate of occupancy. Can you live in that house? Yeah,
That just, you click the light bulb.
Clarity.
yeah. So, I mean, you can, like Russ had, what's the name of that weirdo street? Across from,
Give me more for the weirdo street. Give me more.
Tiernan's property.
Oh, yeah, Shayaba.
Yes, Shayava is the name of the street, whatever
It's
that,
actually a lake, but.
yeah. Anyways, it had an old house. And it had a fourplex that was old and dilapidated, and it was listed as a land.
It was listed as vacant.
Yes,
But,
yeah.
but everything there was no running water and there was. no septic.
There was no way you would want to move in there in any part of it. It is all a tear down.
I have a theory as to why her property was, the one she was talking about with just the foundation, why it was listed as residential. Because they are wanting people who are looking for residences to come across that listing
Mhm.
as a place where you can build property or build a house.
Yeah.
I mean, trying to expand the
So,
base of who's gonna look at that listing. Yeah.
as a broker, you have to realize who your team members are. Northwest MLS, their technology on their website drives me insane, but their people are really nice. So if you have one that it has a manufactured home on it, then you just call them up and say, can I list this a second time as just a vacant land property? And there's a $50 charge to do that, but they will do that for you. So use them and ask them, is this legal? I don't want to get a notification. Not that they fine you the instant that you get it and they allow you to fix it, but they're a wonderful resource and they'll be the first to tell you. When you talk to them, that person didn't know. That's an interesting question.
No, they didn't know, when they sent me to legal, and legal actually had questions about that form. It said, maybe we need to do revision to the 20.
Yes, they do.
That's what the attorney for the MLS said.
Yeah, yeah,
Huh, it said, huh?
yeah.
Good point, escrow lady. Good job.
Alrighty. So are we clear as mud on this? This form we use with a vacant land.
Yep.
When the title has not been eliminated.
Use 23.
23 on leased land.
21 for its real property if it's been eliminated.
Yeah.
So you use a regular 21.
Okay,
So 23 on like, I'm envisioning a trailer park or
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that would be.
Yeah.
okay. So the second thing, just to cover it, that I talked about was I was gonna talk about a 22J. And as a listing broker, when you get your listing agreement, you get your listing inputs signed, you get your 42, you have them initial their agency law. If it's older than 1978, then they need to get a copy of the pamphlet for lead disclosure. And you fill out, to the best of your ability, Form 22J. It is a disclosure that a buyer needs to know that that home might possibly have lead paint. And so it is the listing broker's responsibility to make sure if the home is older than 1978, that they have that in the associated docs at the time of listing, just like your legal description. It is our responsibility to make sure that the buyer knows. Now, what happens, and the age of the house is 1964, and there's no 22J. So Ashley was asking me about this. They didn't upload one. Do you put it in your purchase and sale agreement? Well, if you do, on the second page where it says, as a buyer, I got the pamphlet, but above that is, I got all the notices, if any. Well, how do you know if there are any? You don't know if the seller doesn't provide it. And so it is one of the seller's responsibilities that needs to be in the associated docs so that their portion is filled out. Then you put your buyer's information and the date of the contract at the top. And then you have them sign or initial or whatever it is you're going to do, or if they're going to waive their 10 days inspection, whatever you're going to do on that form. But the reason I brought that up is if it isn't there and you do a purchase and sale agreement and you don't know all the information and you don't have the seller's initials or signature, if you submit that with your offer, it is not mutual until that form is filled out. So as a listing broker, and if you notice and you have a buyer and there's no 22J, you just call that listing broker and say, okay, I've got a buyer. We want to put an offer, but I do not see your 22J. Would you fill that out and send that to me so I can include it with my offer? Now, it is a deliverable, but it is also by law, the seller must provide. Okay, so all I wanted to do is kind of clarify that if you have an offer you're going in and you know it's over that age, then you need to make sure you call that listing broker and say, I missed it. I didn't see the 22J. Can you have your people fill that out? I have an offer. We're all ready. We need it. Yeah, because it is not mutual until that if you submit it, a blank form, it isn't mutual. Now, like on a 22K, in the instruction at the bottom, they have 5 days for mutual to get the complete information back to you. I'm sorry, 22K. What is another one? Oh, did I? Thank you. Okay. So it is 12:58. We started 2 minutes late and we're ending 2 minutes early. Any questions out there yeah, just you and I, Sarah.
This was great, Marsha.
Oh, good. I hope that
Yeah.
we're clear.
It's one that I will definitely listen to again. I missed part of it for a showing that's scheduled and canceled all within the first part of this training.
Okay, that's fine. Good.
I would ask questions too. I'm agent services, so I have questions.
Vanessa is here as agent services. All right. Well, listen, you have a wonderful day,
You too.
everybody, and we're ending it now.